Today we're installing the Madjax Ultimate Plus Light Kit designed for the Club Car Tempo. Included with the kit is your harness, turn signal cover, turn signal assembly, your control box, the headlights, tail lights, a column cover, horn, a brake switch, a 48 to 12 volt converter, and we also have optional plastic headlight templates. Before we get started, I want to run through your Ultimate Plus harness. Starting at the front of the harness, we have a 12-pin connector that goes to the control box. You'll also see a 3-pin red and white connector for your front headlights. The other wires here are for your daytime run lights. You'll see the purple and black wire that goes to your horn. Then you'll see an inline fuse with two 12-volt accessory hookups, one of which is dedicated to the USB port charger. About halfway through the harness, you'll see a black, red, and yellow wire. This is going to go to our brake switch. Slightly further down, you'll see a 2-pin connector that goes to our power converter. And finally, our tail light connections, a 3-pin red and 3-pin white. The red will go to the passenger side. Before we get started, you want to engage the parking brake, turn the key to the off position, and put the cart into tow mode. Then using a T40 Torx head socket, we're going to remove and retain the 2 floor mat retainer screws. Now we're going to remove the floor mat. You will need to take the floor mat retainers and slightly pull them away from the cart. We're going to remove the brake access cover. Next, we're going to remove and retain the 2 screws that hold on the front of the body with a T30 Torx head socket. Next, using a small flathead screwdriver, we're going to remove and retain our trim bezel for our charge port. You want to push in right next to the bezel and pop out the trim ring. Using a T40 Torx head socket, we're going to remove and retain the 3 screws that hold on the front trim to the body. You can now remove the trim piece from the front body. We're ready to feed our harness into our battery compartment through the access hole located behind the F and R switch. We're going to start at the tail light wires and feed them in towards the back of the cart. Make sure to route the harness under your battery cables and pull the harness all the way until you get to the 2-pin connector. Now you're going to route your brake wires into your brake access panel. Next, you're going to take the front of your harness and run it down the center channel here. At this point, we're ready to take off our front dash. Using a T30 Torx head socket, we're going to remove the 2 screws at the bottom of the dash panel and a T15 to remove the top screw. We're going to retain all and fold our dash panel down. We're going to take the front headlight plug-ins and the horn wires and feed them in through the access hole under the dash and into the front cowl area. Before we install our turn signal control box harness, I want to go over some of the features. You'll notice there's 2 12-pin plug-ins on each side. The longer harness side goes to your main harness. The short side goes to the turn signal harness. Then you'll notice the positive and negative auxiliary hookups for additional LED lights or fog lights that will work off of the rotary switch on your turn signal indicator. You'll also see a hazard switch, and finally the purple wire, which supplies power to the whole kit, which we'll explain later, and it plugs into the main harness. Now we're going to attach our 12-pin harness to the 12-pin of our control box. We can now install our hazard switch. On our cart, there's already a hole for this, but you'll normally see a little small dimple here on the dash. You'll use a 15-30 seconds drill bit and your safety glasses and drill through at this point. It's a good spot because there's no wires behind it. You're going to disconnect the hazard switch from the control box harness. Note that the wires are in order: black, blue, yellow. The black is located directly behind the LED, blue in the middle, yellow on the top. You're going to loosen the nut on the back side, take it off, push the switch through, reattach the nut, and then reattach the black, blue, and yellow wire in the same orientation. Black directly behind the LED, blue on the center, and yellow on the top. You'll also see 3 bullet connectors here. They're labeled first position and second position fog, and then a negative. This means the first position will be the first position on the rotary switch for your turn signal indicator. So you're going to put the hot for your first accessory here, say your light bar or a fog light. Same thing with the second, put your hot wire here, and then each negative for these two position accessories will go to this one bullet connector. Now we're going to install our USB charger. You have two options here to install this. You can use a 1 1/8 paddle bit, or you can remove the nut on the back side and use it as your cutting template. You want to make sure you find a good flat surface, and also, because of the USB's depth, make sure there's nothing behind the surface that you're going to install it on. Once you have your hole drilled, if you look on the back side of the charger, you'll notice a positive and negative symbol. You're going to insert the charger into your surface, tighten it with the nut, put the red to the positive and the black to the negative side. To put our brake switch in, first thing you're going to do is turn this front nut towards the driver's side and loosen it up. Place your brake switch in the floorboard. Hook your brake switch clip to the spring as shown. Clip it on to the equalizer bracket. Retighten your nut. Once you have your brake switch in place, you want to test and make sure that the plunger is not engaged when the brake is resting. When you engage the brake pedal, you'll see the plunger come out of the brake switch, which turns the brake lights on. Once you have the location for your brake switch, go ahead and secure it to the floor with the supplied screws. You want to double check, make sure your plunger is not engaged when the brake is resting, and then simply attach the bullet connectors together. Now you can reattach your brake access cover. Before we attach the turn signal indicator, I want to go over some of the features. You'll notice there's a horn here on the outside edge. The first switch here will be for your daytime running lights, and the second switch will be for your headlights. We have a high-low beam feature as well. Just pull the lever towards you to turn them on and pull it again to turn them off. You'll also see a rotary switch here. This is for additional fog lights or light bars, and there's two on-off settings. You also have turn signal blinkers, just like you would an automobile. Using a number 2 Phillips tip, we're going to attach the turn signal assembly to the column. You're going to feed the straps around the column and then tighten the other side. You want to make sure that you tighten all 4 screws evenly. With your indicator in your desired location, you can snap on the cover. Then we're going to slide our harness into the column cover channel here. Your harness will sit back here. Go ahead and attach your turn signal harness into your control box harness. Now that we have everything hooked up, we're going to reattach our dash. Just make sure to push all of the harness into the dash cavity back here in the back. You may have to do a little bit of trimming on your dash panel to get your harness in under the column. For video purposes only, we're going to show you how to cut out your headlights off the cart. In each kit, you'll receive a paper headlight template. You'll notice some instructions here of the top side. You'll also see some lines that say peaks and below that valleys. I'll explain that in a second. First thing we want to do is cut out our headlight from the paper. Just go to the inside of the bold black line. With your template cut out, as I mentioned before, you'll see the 3 lines that have peak written beside them. These refer to the 3 peaks going around where our headlight's going to sit. You're going to line up the 3 peak lines with these peaks and tape off your template to the cowl. We want to make sure that the template stays as tight to the cowl as possible. Go ahead and trace out your headlight and fill in the gaps from the tape. Moving to the passenger side, simply repeat the same steps but flip the template over and mark out the inside of your hole. You can also purchase plastic templates that simply sit right over the top of the peaks, and they're also marked with an R for passenger and a left for the driver's side. Plastic templates make this process much faster and a lot easier for when you're doing multiple kits. At this point, we're ready to go ahead and cut out for our headlight templates. You're going to simply drill a pilot hole, use a cutting tool, and cut to the inside of your line. You can always come back and take a little more out if you need to. Make sure you wear safety glasses. Now you can take a piece of sandpaper and clean up your edges. Reach through and grab the red 3-pin connector from your light harness and pull it through the access hole here where we cut our headlights out of the front cowl underbody. You're going to plug the red 3-pin passenger headlight to the harness, and then the gray wire with the female bullet connector on the harness to the gray wire with the male bullet connector, and this will run our daytime run lights. Now we're going to simply click the light in place. You're going to push it in so that the tabs on the back side of the light hold the light to the cowl. We're going to repeat this same step on the other side. Using a self-tapping screw, we're going to secure the horn to the frame under the cowl. Then we're going to attach the purple and black wire to the 2 spades on the horn. It does not matter which wire goes to which spade. Moving to the tail lights, you can see we already have tail light holes cut out on this cart, but it's still pretty easy to do. I'll show you here. All you're going to do is measure 2 1/4 from the flat side of the body. So if you follow the curve around, as soon as this curve of the body starts, that's where you're going to measure 2 1/4 over. And then you're going to measure 1.5 inches off the top side of the underbody, make a mark on each line, and then just cut a small 1-inch hole so that your 3-pin connector will fit through the body. Using a wire snake, we're going to reach through and grab our white driver's side 3-pin connector and pull it through the back of the battery compartment to our tail light hole. We're going to do the same thing on the passenger side. Attach the driver's side headlight, white connector to the white connector, then peel off the red tape on the back side. Then using the supplied screws, secure the tail light to the underbody. Do not over tighten because you can crack the bezel. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now we're going to attach our converter to the battery pack. We're going to show you how to do this on top of the battery pack for visual purposes only. You will need to attach the converter itself to a flat surface, preferably metal. First thing we're going to do is attach our red and black ring terminals to the main positive and main negative of the battery pack. Now you're going to attach the 2-pin connector from your light kit harness to the black and yellow of your converter. And then you're going to attach the 2-pin from the main battery positive and negative to the converter. You will notice a small arc when you plug these 2 in. That's perfectly normal. That just means the converter's working. You can use some self-tapping screws to secure your converter. Now that we have power to our light kit harness, you need to go back and check to make sure your brake switch is in the right position. When you engage the brake, your brake light should come on. If this is not the case, you need to go back in and adjust your brake switch so that the plunger only engages when the brake is pushed. If everything looks good, you can go ahead and reinstall your floor mat and your trim pieces. You're now finished installing your Madjax Ultimate Plus light kit designed for the Club Car Tempo.